Welcome to the Other Side Pod. I'm Nadine. We're not experts. We're just humans having a human experience we think you can learn from, or relate to, or laugh at, or cry over. So hit download, dive in, and hear how folks found themselves on the other side. Recording Sarah.
Hi.
What's your sign?
My sun sign is Leo, and my rising is Pisces, and my moon is Scorpio.
I already have a million questions.
I know.
Like, what? Okay, tell us who you are.
So I am a Ottawa-based astrologer. I focus on what I call personal astrology, and that's really understanding your natal chart and then working with the transits, the movement of the planets, the sun, and what they mean for your natural energy. And that helps us track themes throughout your life in terms in long cycles and in short cycles to help promote mindfulness and focus on personal growth. So that's the astrology part of me. Other things about me, I am huge fan of fantasy everything. Like that's my go-to. I love magic and history, and all of that kind of tied together has always drawn me towards astrology because yeah.
Have you read A Court of Thorn and Roses?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I was one of the OGs when there was only like 3 books out or something. Yeah.
What is there, 5 now?
There's 5, and before recording this podcast, I saw a little Reddit thread being like a second novella's coming out soon. So, yeah, but I like her other series too. Super good.
I started A Court of Thorn and Roses because my beloved friend Abby is real into this, and I'd gotten out of reading for a couple of years. You know when you're like going through your own stuff, and I was reading a lot of like psychology books, mindfulness books, and I'd gotten out of reading for fun or reading for like fiction reading. And so my friend was like, listen, delve into the worlds of dragons and fairies and smut. Glorious. And so I think I started with not A Court of Thorn and Roses. There's another one. It was so popular probably 3 years ago. It was, oh my gosh. Fourth fucking Wing.
Fourth Wing. Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay, so I started with the Fourth Wing, and I was like, I don't know if this is for me because I find that character pretty young, whatever. But like I got into it, and I read the second one, but the third one's come out, and I don't think I could get into it. But anyway, all that to say, Court of Thorn and Roses, I was all in, but then same thing, after like 2.5 books, I kind of fell away from it, but whatever, I'm going to get back into it. But, you know, I never thought I'd read any fantasy, so the fact that I've read 3.5, 4 books.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, I got it. And I said to another friend who's since, like, after reading them, who's having a hard time, I'm like, do you want to get completely distracted and have, like, no connection to the world that we know? Fantasy, my friend.
Yes.
Fantasy.
100%.
Of course you love those books. I love this. Okay, let's go back to little kid Sarah. What do you want to be when you grow up?
I have specific memories of me writing that I wanted to be a singer, and then I wanted to be a writer. I remember in grade 3 being praised for a story like I wrote, like for a little project, and being like, I could really be a writer. Oh my gosh. And so that really stuck with me in like carrying through in my life, and I think I've emulated that by, you know, like singer and writer, it's ultimately like sharing emotions with people or bringing emotions out in people and helping people understand things in new ways. I think that's the core of why I wanted to do those things, is to share stuff with people. So when I do natal chart readings, I do feel like I am that storyteller, that person helping people feel seen through my creativity, which just comes out in astrology instead of, well, I do writing on the side, but not like publicly or like share that a lot yet. But that's how I see the connection there. But yeah, singer and a writer was my baby girl dreams.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I get the storytelling aspect of it, not because I'm good at reading astrology, quite the opposite, But a really dear friend of mine reads tarot cards, and we
Yeah.
actually did a podcast on tarot because how fun. And that's how she describes it. Like she just gets to tell a story through what the cards, what she turns up in the cards. And I'm like, yeah, right. It's just using something else to tell a story. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
How did you get into astrology?
Well, I was thinking about this kind of preparing for chatting with you, and I was always a spiritual person or liked that mystical stuff, but my mom always would say everything happens for a reason. And that like statement, I didn't really understand it as I was becoming a young adult, because then it's like, well, why is this happening? Like, this is shitty, or I am the reason why I'm failing courses or not making enough friends, not in a relationship. Like, I'm the reason, right? And so I turned to astrology deeper. I would always read daily horoscopes or look up what my sun sign meant, but I needed to know more information about why everything happened for a reason. So I got into astrology by diving a little deeper, and I took a course on Saturn, and it was called astrology coaching, and that really helped me recognize that, oh yes, this is how you learn more about yourself through astrology and understand the timing or reasoning behind certain cycles in your life. So that really stuck with me because it helped me answer the question why everything happens for a reason or how everything happens for a reason. It made sense to me to follow these patterns or anticipate changes around certain times in your life, different
Almost like
ages.
it's written in the stars, literally.
Yeah, literally. It's so interesting because you can also pair astrology with different personal beliefs and spiritual beliefs. And so it can get a little too much information for me to really say everything I believe, but the movement of the planets is a guide, and you get to choose in each moment how you're actually using that energy. So it is written in the stars, but you still have agency. I think one of the biggest things that I like to remind people of, especially if they're coming to me for a reading for the first time, is that astrology is what you make of it, your beliefs shape it, and that there's different schools of thought in astrology. Some people want to come to an astrologer for definitive answers and clear timing that they can 100% live by. And those are predictive astrologers or horary astrologers that are more focused on fate, where I believe in a mix of fate and personal agency mixed in, where you do ultimately have a choice to make a tough energy positive, or, you know, where you recognize you can push through a rough transit or time in your life. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay, if I wanted to book a personal astrology reading with you, what would we do?
So, in my consultation, when people book with me, I lay out some of the techniques that I like to use in case some people already know a little bit about astrology. They can like put in, I want to go over this. But I pull up the natal chart. So yeah, I would pull up your natal chart.
So natal chart, sorry, is that a birth chart? Same thing?
Yes, so your natal chart, your birth chart, it is based on the time, location, and date of your birth. And if you don't know the time, that does change what's called the rising sign or ascendant. So you can still get a juicy reading if you don't know the time. You're just missing one of the pieces of the puzzle.
Wait,
And
I need to ask.
yeah.
How specific do you need to know for time? And the reason I ask is because my mother, bless her soul, is like, you were a cesarean section, Nadine. I'm sure they did it in the morning. I was the third baby, you know, she's
Yeah.
busy. But so morning baby, but like I don't know if it was 9:07 or 9:30 or 10. Does it have to be like the hour, the minute, or kind of useless?
Yeah, it's different for each person because really I've had different clients where they're like, I think it's around this time. And I said, oh, well, the ascendant stayed in this sign for 3 hours. So as long as we're in that 3 hour mark, great.
Cool.
And then there's
Okay.
some people who are like, I think it's either between 2 and 3. Well, the ascendant did change between 2 and 3 that day.
Got you.
So it is a little trickier. So it does get it's a hit or miss. You never know
Okay.
until you
Okay.
look.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And then
What does
so
ascendant even mean?
yeah, so
I
the
like I
ascendant,
listen,
yeah,
so many
no,
questions,
I know,
Sarah.
I love it. So your rising sign and slash ascendant, I'm going to use those terms interchangeably,
Okay.
is similar to your sun sign in that it represents you, represents your energy, your being, but your sun sign is more of your ego and general life path, and your rising sign is like your avatar or how you present yourself to the world.
Cute.
So that's where these two signs, knowing them together, can help you understand more of your identity instead of just living like, well, I'm a Leo, so I am loud. No, I'm also a Pisces, so I do have that reserved side to me, and I should accept that. Because sometimes we're just told we're one thing and feel and then tell ourselves subconsciously that we have to meet those standards. But so your rising sign is super valuable because sometimes it works in a completely different way than the energy of your sun sign. And the rising sign is actually the zodiac sign that was on the horizon when you were born. So that's why
Oh.
the location is important.
Wait, on the horizon, not literally, not like because I'm an Aquarius. So it's not the next sun sign to follow Aquarius, right? Like what I'm,
Right, because the sun is like,
yeah.
because we're orbiting, the earth is moving each day,
Yeah.
everything's in motion. So the sun is, yes, in the sky, but depending on the time you were born, what angle is the sun at? We see the sun move all the time. It's not always in one point in the sky. So the sun in Aquarius is this hand. I'm being very visual. This
Yeah, I
hand.
love it.
And then so when you were born, your ascendant is what sign was here. If the sun
Oh, that's
was,
so
yeah.
cool.
So
If you're not watching on YouTube, you're missing out a
it's
real. You're
ultimately I'm
missing.
like, yeah.
They're
But yeah.
in their relationship to each other, but one like
The
a very
sun is
clear.
movable. The sun's sign is the same sun sign for 28 days. The ascendant changes every few hours.
Cool.
So that is why, people born on the same day can also be so different. And sometimes twins usually have the exact same, like very close natal chart, but then there's different techniques and different chart styles. And so if you were having a reading with me, the next thing I would do is explain the type of chart I use, because there's also different ways of calculating the chart. For those who are familiar with astrology, you can kind of visualize it's just a circle and then there's 12 slices of pie in there. And some styles of astrology, like when you generate it online, when you just Google, sometimes the slices are bigger or smaller, like they're uneven. And that's a modern style of astrology that is valid and accurate. But I like to use whole sign houses, which makes each slice of your chart equal and assigns it to one zodiac sign. So it simplifies it for the first few readings I have with clients. And then we bring in that other style chart to look at different energies or get more specific with some timing or some personality traits. So that's where with my astrology, what I love is I use all of those tools. I don't just say one is king. We use all of the tools in our toolbox.
So we met at a sweet little intimate networking event, and the universe gifted me with you sat right next to me. And I'm like, oh my God, tell me everything. And as a part of this event, we got a little reading
Yes.
from you. Okay, Aquarius sun is simply because I was born on Feb 16th, all
Yeah.
Aquariuses. Gemini moon is because Gemini was ascending.
No, that's where the moon was.
Oh God, never gonna get this, Sarah. Oh, okay. So I'm not an Aquarius with a rising Gemini or whatever.
No, because did I not put ascendant there? Did you submit your birth time? Because
did not.
yeah, so you didn't. So that's why you don't have an ascendant listed there. But so the moon was in Gemini when you were born. So how I calculated it for you is a great example. I put your sun sign as the first house where the ascendant would be. And I should mention, yeah, all those slices of pie I was talking about are called houses. And they represent,
Oh, that's where the
yeah,
houses come from.
and they represent the different life areas and themes in astrology. So that's why each 12 slices of pie, 12 life areas. And these 12 life areas are also very relevant to different styles of life coaching. Like when you rank certain life areas in your life, they really mirror some of the techniques and theories I've seen in life coaching. And so that's why I stuck to astrology and saw it as valid, because I was learning life coaching at the same time I was learning astrology, and I was like, these match up, these make sense. So that's why I encourage everyone to look at their chart deeply to understand the houses, because it's helping you understand how each life area has a different energy for you. You're not going to give the same energy you give your family to your career, to your friends, to your health, you know? And that's why the houses are probably the least popular known element of astrology, and they're probably the most important.
So 12 pieces of pie,
Yeah.
12 houses. Is that the 12 signs? There's 12 signs,
There
right?
are 12 signs, and so this is actually, I think, argued about in astrology, where some people don't agree with each house being traditionally ruled by a sign and matching them up.
Okay,
I do. I
cool.
believe it. I love it because there's natural energies that match up. So, for example, Aries is the first sign in the zodiac, and it can align with the first house in terms of it being initiation. Like Aries loves to get things started, is a fire energy. The first house represents beginnings, where it doesn't totally match up is other themes. Like the energy remains the same, but the themes of the first house of like self and your own image, that's less related to Aries unless you're born with an Aries placement. So yeah, so there's different arguments that can be
Okay.
made. I personally like to assign the houses as a to a traditional ruling zodiac, because that has helped me make more connections and give better readings. But in your chart, in the whole sign chart system that I use, which is the Hellenistic style of using astrology and casting charts, and I should mention Hellenistic is way, way back, ancient times, Alexander the Great, pre-Alexander the Great. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that style, the way that they would cast a natal chart. And that also aligns one sign. It might not be, like I said, Aries to the first house, but they do assign one house per zodiac sign. And again, that gives you more personal insight to specific energy that comes out in that life area for you.
So what do you use a birth chart for?
I use a birth chart for many things. One is to help you understand more of who you are and some natural themes that show up in your life. And then we also look at it to look at how the planets are interacting with your natal chart in that moment. You can kind of see it as you seeing your life as a spiral, and the natal chart is this moment where you came in officially as your own self into the world. You're no longer attached to your mother, you are your own human being. And then life is kind of a spiral, and everything is attached to your natal chart. So observing the transits in that moment to that natal chart helps us observe where you are in that spiral of energy, basically in that path. And it can help, again, give you more insights to where your shifts and personal growth are right now, and also how outer circumstances are influencing you. And then you can also use your natal chart and compare it to someone else's to understand your relationship dynamics, to understand if there's significant energies that show that they are someone significant in your life. That is also really helpful too. And the natal chart is just where it begins. You can also have other charts that are valuable to you.
But if someone's doing a reading with you, you start off with the natal chart.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like
Yeah.
a good little
That's,
snapshot.
yeah.
Okay, cool story. When my dad died, spoiler alert. When my dad died, I had a really, I mean, I started going to a new therapist because it doesn't matter. But I started with this therapist that came highly recommended from a really good friend of mine. And I didn't know she delved into a birth chart at all. I wouldn't think there would be any cross over of traditional therapy or whatever style of therapy. I know there's a bunch of different kinds, and astrology and birth charts. And anyway, so I have a session with her, and she tells me, at the end, are you open to birth charts, or however she approached it? And she was an incredible woman. and I worked with her in her last year or two right before she retired. So she had a wealth of experience,
Amazing.
an incredible human. Anyway, like I'd still be seeing her if she didn't retire. I really loved her. But she was like, "Are you open to birth charts?" And I remember being very skeptical. I like astrology and I love to hear about it. And I loved getting this from you about Aquarius sun and Gemini moon. I just don't know enough about it. I like to like kind of scratch the surface, and then it's never something I really like delved into deeply. Except when I started working with Janie, she said, "Yeah, are you open to it?" And I said, "Sure." So I feel like I found my little baby bracelet because I was really into this. I really wanted to understand who I was and who my family was without my dad's presence. My dad had a big presence, and in my brain, I almost wanted to like figure out how my family mapped without his earthly presence. And so I was really into this. This is probably why I ended up going to her. The universe put her in my path for me. And so I believe I found the time of my birth, which I now forget, and I cannot find the baby bracelet because I have since looked. And so she gave me my birth chart, and it was really cool. We worked through it. It was beautiful. But here's where my mind and my world were rocked. She asked if she could do the birth chart of my mom and my dad and my sister and my brother. And I was like, sure. But she
Yeah.
said, can you ask their permission? Because I don't want to do it without them knowing. And I'm like, okay. So I asked, well, I didn't ask my dad, obviously, but I asked my mom and sister and brother, and they were like, sure. My brother is an engineer and definitely not into this. And he was like, I don't know what you need this for, but it feels like it's helping you. So you do whatever you need to do to help you on this journey. Very sweet. And my mom probably thought the same. And my sister and I were like all in. So here's what blew my mind. I had just started working with this person. We maybe had 2 or 3 sessions. I'd given her all the information about my mom, my sister, my brother, my dad, just based on what she needed to do a birth chart. And when she told me about them and their lives and who they are and how we interrelated, I got cold shivers. I'm like, how did you know this? Like, because it's not like I'd been with her for 6 months or a year and had told her stories about my family. I don't know if I'd even talked about them beyond losing my dad. And it's going to be hard to explain without me pulling it out and reading it out to you and telling you like this is exactly who my sister was. But just I'm sure you'll trust me. But the people that are listening, trust when I say she told me exactly who my sister was, who my brother was, how they interrelate, my dad, my mom, how they interrelate, and it was beautiful. Like it made me cry. I'm like, because it was really lovely to see their beautiful humanity on like as told through their birth charts.
Yeah.
And then she told me, like, I remember she said about my sister, she would map years based on the birth chart. She was like, oh, your sister is coming out of a really, I'm going to say this wrong, so correct me if this is not how you'd say it, but something like she's coming out of a really powerful contemplative moment, and the next 2 years are like infused with power and energy. And if she wants to make change, like, that is that how you do it? It was cool.
Yeah, and I use the actual terms in my reading because like because it also works for my brain when I'm to like hear my words so I know I'm talking about the right energy. It's likely that she was using some timing techniques like the Saturn return, like knowing when
Yes.
like Saturn specifically is one of the major players that influences a lot of highs and lows in our life. And it specifically has a 2.5 year timing in each sign. And it really can bring through those catalytic moments that shape the next 2 years or that you have to work through to get to the other side to something better. So what you were saying really aligned with something along the lines of a Saturn return, or I use another technique called perfections too, where you can time stuff each year. Or and
Like
by
in what way?
yeah, like
Tell me about
timing.
perfections.
Timing to me is like timing is not necessarily 100% prediction. It's understanding the energy and tracking the patterns. So when I say timing, it doesn't necessarily mean like the specific day. It's like understanding that this year is important for these themes for you. But perfections is just another one that can help you understand what themes to focus on more deeply that year. And then I also break them down by month for my clients. Which is
Wait, you know
fun.
what? Can we share a little snippet of each sign
Yeah, so I can kind of go around
Yeah.
the wheel. So
and tell me how they relate to the houses and the pie? I think that
okay,
would
yeah,
be so
I love
juicy for
it. Yeah.
people.
So
Yeah, what a cool thing to tell. Okay.
so Aries is ruled by Mars. So that helps us understand that Aries is focused on motivation and drive and action. This can make Aries a fast kind of person. And they can have trouble seeing things through. They're great initiators, but need more groundedness to follow, not follow through on some things. Like, it can be that vibe, but they're really great at encouraging others and managing others to get things done. Aries is full of energy, great athletes too often when they're, especially when they're in their sun sign, or just active in the community as well. They got a lot going on. I associate Aries with the first house because of the initiation energy and focus on beginnings, but the first house is also the house of self. And sometimes that can be associated to your physical body, but also how you see yourself as a soul, as a mind, and the house of how you present yourself. Like I said, the first house is usually where your rising sign sits, so it's like how your brand. And Taurus is the first earth sign in the zodiac. Aries is fire. And Taurus is ruled by Venus and is represented by the second house in the zodiac, number 2. And that helps me understand number 2, balance, Venus, harmony and balance. So that's where I see that connection, because Taurus really is stubborn because they're trying to achieve balance. A lot of people say Tauruses get that bad reputation because they can be stuck in their ways, but it's because they know what works for them, and they are really good at seeing things through, hunkering down and getting a job done. Taurus also has a gentle side to it. It's represented by, the bull, but it is like, yeah, it's gentle at the same time because it is this first earth energy in the zodiac. So it wants to nurture the seeds, it wants to take care of other people as well, but sometimes just comes across a little harsh. Sometimes it's a tough one. But the second house is the house of values. This is money, finances, material things, but also personal values. And this also reminds me of Taurus because Taurus sticks to their convictions. And that's why Taurus reminds me of the second house, because the second house is where we can look in our chart for how we deal with money, how we receive money, but also how we stick to our instincts, stick to our values, and what our values might even be.
Wait, how do we know what house we're in? Is that a thing? I want to come back. We did Aries, Taurus, we're on the 3rd, but I'm confused on how I know what house is motivating me or...
So that is using the transits. So for example, right now, you being a Aquarius sun, and the sun is in Aquarius right now, we know that the sun is activating your first house through your sun sign, because I don't know your rising sign. So that's right, where you can have multiple charts. Like me doing this right now is reading your solar chart.
Okay, great. Yeah. Because I don't know the time of my birth, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, and then that being said, with my clients, I do what I call the tri-lens technique, where I look at how their sun, moon, and rising sign are being activated in the houses. So we look
and
at
so
more.
Right now, if I'm in the first house, does that change next month?
Yeah. So when the sun moves into Pisces, February 20th, actually it might be, I think it's the 18th. That's going to bug me. I'm going to pull it up on the side. But when
I feel
Pisces,
like it's the 16th because I think I was born on the cusp.
It's different. Yeah, because they all change. For 6 months in a row, they're all the 20th or 21st, and then they start shifting, and
got you.
Then my brain gets confused. But so when it moves into Pisces, the sun will be activating your 10th house. Or 10th house.
Why
That's
10?
A lie, not 10th. I don't know why I said that. Your second house.
Oh, my second.
Your
okay.
second house.
What's the date of it? February?
Yeah, February 18th this month.
February 8th. Okay. So on February the 18th, it moves into the second house.
For you, yeah, according to your sun sign. So that means Pisces energy for you is related to how you receive money. Pisces energy is very much coaching energy, okay? So I love that. Yeah.
It's a good omen.
Yeah, so then next month you might be more focused on your finances, but how I coach, I'm also saying, hey, this is the month to check in with your values. I like to rank them. So what value is actually most important for the next 4 months? What value do you have to maybe not align yourself with anymore because maybe it doesn't fit? Or you have to adjust your definition of that value.
Right.
So
Okay, I totally interrupted you.
that's okay.
You were on Taurus with the second house.
Yes.
What's number 3? And then what's the date of the third one? Like, I don't even know these dates. What's Aries? Is that April?
Yeah, so every year they're actually kind of different. Like people are like sometimes people argue because it's like no, Pisces is the 20th, but every year is actually kind of slightly different because the sun isn't always right there that day. And it also depends on time zones. So sometimes astrologers are using ephemerises that are in a different time zone. This is where the planets
Oh,
will be. So I always just say mid-month, like around the 20th, then you'll
okay.
know it's always in between. So basically, each month of the year, you're interacting with two different main themes
That's so cool. I love that
because the
stuff.
sun changes. So that's why sometimes, like mid month, there's a different vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, the planets have shifted. There's also moon cycles we could get into. There's so many different ways
Oh,
to
Sarah.
work with different themes that it can get confusing. So that's why when you start working with astrology, focusing on just tracking the sun or tracking the moon cycles is great. And then we can get into all the other planets and retrogrades. But yeah, there's so much to work with. That's why a lot of people, I think, just assume that they can't handle it, they can't understand it. And that's why having an astro coach can be super helpful. And I have to say, by the way, I love you sharing that your therapist was also an astrologer because she
Cool, hey?
is definitely like had to do the hard things to bring astrology into her practice.
Yeah,
So I
it
love
was a
that.
real leap, I'm sure, because, to take something that you can be so skeptical about and link it with something, well, I guess people are skeptical about, oh my God, I can't say these words.
There
S-
are
uh,
so many skeptics, yeah, about astrology.
But yeah,
100%.
it was a real leap of faith for her to blend psychology and astrology and to just like dig her heels in and be like, I'm going to do this. And if you're open to it, great. And if you're not, that's okay too. I have other ways
Yeah.
to help you. But I'm so glad she was open enough to learn it and share it with me because it really did. It just helped me. It's exactly what I wanted to do. Map my family. I don't know how to better explain it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're on to Taurus.
Gemini.
What's the third one? Ooh,
Yes,
tell me
so
more.
Gemini is the next one. So this is also fun because I can talk about it through your moon sign too. But
Oh yeah.
Gemini
Why, wait,
is
remind me, why is it my moon sign? That's
that's
where
where
the
the moon
moon
was.
was when I was born.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly. So Gemini as a sign is the first air sign in the zodiac. So Gemini is like experiencing logic and communication for the first time. So they like to have all of the resources and information and pick and choose and kind of explore a little bit of this and that. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which is more of a neutral planet. It's not assigned a feminine or masculine energy. So Gemini itself is a very chameleon like, so can fit into different social environments in that way too. And I associate Gemini with the third house in astrology, which is communication, which is connection, and siblings. The third, that's like, I always say that each house has like some alignment with the sign, and then this like outlier theme that's like kind of random. And that one for the third house is siblings, but really, siblings inform how we at the beginning of our life, how we see the world, how we communicate and develop those social skills. So you having a Gemini moon and me now knowing that you have some siblings is a really beautiful way that yes, your siblings were really important to your emotional experience throughout your entire life, but that through your moon sign, you can understand that Gemini is also helping you be an important emotional communicator where you can both logical lies emotion and empathize at the same time and bring all of these different perspectives together when it comes to your emotional experience.
Do you hear that, Stephen and Danielle? Like, I am the logic between you two dickheads.
Yeah. Listen to me. No, but are you the oldest or the middle
The
child or oh, the
baby.
baby. Well, that's so cute. But yeah, so Gemini is another lovely sign, but also gets a bad reputation. I must say, in popular astrology, people think Geminis are flaky because they are so adaptable. Because so some people who have harder placements like are like, well, why aren't they doing what I want them to do? Because they do have a sense of freedom and adaptability. The next sign is Cancer. Cancer is ruled by the moon itself. So
Oh,
the
that
first
sounds
water
nice.
sign in the zodiac, so gentle, nurturing in a different way from Taurus is earth energy, where Gemini is nurturing more emotionally and instinctually rather than through action, I want to say. So Gemini, Cancer is represents like the mother a lot in mythology because it also rules the fourth house of family and motherhood. So Cancer people can get a bad reputation for being too overly emotional, but all of their emotions are coming from a place of wanting to care for others. Very more than often it's because they want to care for others and not themselves. So I'm calling out Cancers here to hey learn to take care of yourself a little bit more too. Then the fifth sign is Leo, and Leo is ruled by the sun. So this speaks to Leo being a great leader or guide. Like, I'm biased because I have a lot of Leo placements, so I don't want to be like, I'm so great. But Leo is also, it's funny that I wanted to be a singer when I grew up because Leos are like pop star energy. They want to be
Oh,
seen
cute.
and, and
And you're a
share
Leo.
the story. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
So they want to, be fabulous, and sometimes that comes off as being self-absorbed. But the other side of Leo, when they're living in their highest self, is being generous, inclusive, spreading that joy and sharing it. Because Leo traditionally has that rulership in my practice to the fifth house, which is the fifth house of joy and
Uh,
creativity. And so encouraging people to be creative and spreading that joy. A lot of people in your life, whoever you're like, she's just a ray of sunshine, probably has a significant Leo placement. Like they probably have something in their chart that is in Leo that really brings out this energy that spreads joy to other people subconsciously. And the fifth house encompasses, yeah, joy, creativity, and can also represent children in your life as well. Then there's the sixth house. The sixth house is ruled by Virgo. And now we're getting duplicates of themes, I should say. Leo is another fire sign, the second fire sign in the zodiac. Virgo is the second earth sign in the zodiac and gets another reputation for being overworked with Virgos. Virgos are a lot of nurses, psychologists, like they do the work, the day-to-day routine of needing to just getting up and feeding themselves. They're feeding themselves so they can feed other people. Very hard workers with Virgo. Virgo is also represented by the Virgin in astrology, so I always bring it up as the history behind the Vestal virgins and them literally being vessels for other people to have spiritual experiences. There's different mythologies and historical stuff around those people, but it helps us understand that Virgo really embodies some type of energy where they're teaching other people and caring for other people. So, and that isn't just one way you should define yourself. That's just if your sun's in Virgo, that can just be more prominent for you. But Virgo is associated with the sixth house of service, health, and routine. So that again is another reason why I love making these connections to the signs and the houses, because this one is really, really clear of the sixth house being of service and represented by Virgo. So the sixth house represents your daily routine and how you're of service to other people. Then Libra is the seventh sign in the zodiac, the second air sign, and is ruled by Venus as well. So it has that relationship with Taurus energy of being ruled by Venus, a little bit more aesthetically like vibes with Libra, or wanting to have pleasurable experiences, pleasurable relationships. Libra is also represented by the scales, that balance energy, which
right.
comes from the harmony energy of being ruled by Venus, and then air element of logic and communication coming in too. However, I always say that Libra, its glyph actually looks like a bridge or a tunnel. And this is another way where Libra is hugely focused on relationships and helping other people make connections. This is why a lot of Libras have a tough love life because people come in and out of their life because unknowingly Libra energy is where we leave a mark on other people. we help them make a connection that they need to go and have their other own experience with. So Libra's energy itself is really difficult for some people to deal with, because we do see it as this like lovable, charismatic, flirty sign, but its deeper meaning is really, this is where you interact with people and sometimes they disappear for reasons unknown. You're making connections with people, and it's connections that have a deeper meaning that you might not know. And that being said, Libra rules the 7th house, which is the relationship house of the zodiac. So this house in anyone's chart will help you identify some stuff around your partnership energies, being romantic partnerships, business partnerships, long-term relationships. That lives in the 7th house. Then the 8th house, so we're almost done. We're
This is great.
Three-quarters through the wheel.
When I listen to a podcast about something like this where I'm waiting for me to come up, I'm like, tell me more. And also, what's cool about it, let me just tell you, it's not boring, because it's like, I'm thinking of my partner, I'm thinking of my best friends, I'm thinking of my mom, so.
Okay, beautiful.
So, yeah, you keep going.
And I'm
lovely.
always bringing my own little spin on it. So for you and for other people listening, this is like how my brain works when it comes to astrology. The 8th house is beautiful, but really, really complicated, because the 8th house is the house of mystery. And if you Google it, it's going to say like sex, money, and mystery and taboo things. So this is where Scorpio, traditionally ruling the 6th house, gets a bad reputation. I have seen so many Scorpios who say, people think I'm supposed to be this like seductress, and I'm not. Like, why are people labeling Scorpios as, either goth or seductive or something? And it's because their energy traditionally rules the unknown, this mysterious house. So those Scorpios who do say that, sometimes they do have those, like, that aloofness to them, or they might have, like, neurodivergency as well, where, like, they do mask and hide some parts of their self from some people throughout earlier stages in their life. That has just been true for Scorpios I interact with. But Scorpio itself is the 2nd water sign in the zodiac, so Scorpios are very self-aware, very intuitive, and they're learning how to use that intuition. So when you have Scorpio in a dominant, have planets in Scorpio, you kind of learn to unlock this ability to use your emotions and intuition in a better way, in a stronger way, and also provide resources to people. So Scorpios are often consultants or people who like have the ability to help other people make sense or provide resources to people. It might even be like project managers, stuff like that. And Scorpio rules the 8th house of the zodiac, the themes I kind of already talked about, but it also relates to other people's baggage. This is the life area of debt that could be yours, could be someone else's, could be, like student loans, all that stuff. Like that's like debt that is like put on you, or it can also be inheritance. Sometimes like when the 8th house is activated, you inherit money. There's a lot of fun popular culture stuff that shows that to be true. And
cool.
Like an example is Priscilla Presley is a Scorpio and has a lot of 8th house activations, and certain cycles, because I believe Elvis died when she was young, came, and then she received her inheritance when her 8th house was activated in a certain way. So that's how that was one way my teacher taught me, was through that example. So the 8th house can represent other people's baggage. So when it's activated too, I say this a lot to my clients, I'm like, are you living within your values or someone else's right now? This is when you gotta check in with that life area too. So the 8th house can be tough to deal with because it does take internal investigation, which Scorpio loves and knows all about. Then the 9th house is Sagittarius, and the 9th house is like, it's kind of like the 8th house is that contraction, discovering new things about yourself or about the world. And then the 9th house is like, let's share it. Let's show the optimism behind things. Because Sagittarius is the last fire sign in the zodiac. So it has gone through Aries' initiation and Leo's, let's have fun with it. And Sagittarius is like, this is the best way to use creativity. And I like to call it the entrepreneur of the zodiac too, because it's sharing more of its energy. It's making it into a business. It's teaching others how to do it. But Sagittarius is also very detached in a way because its traditional ruler is Jupiter. I should mention Scorpio, I forgot. Scorpio is ruled by Mars and Pluto, and that helps it be very action oriented towards this internal research, where Aries, being ruled by Mars, is action oriented towards like outer action and achievement. So Sagittarius, being ruled by Jupiter, has this natural optimism and like awareness to it, awareness of the possibilities around it. So Sagittarius is also a sign that loves individuality, more freedom and adventure. And it rules the ninth house, which represents travel and higher education. So that's where, going to school sometimes is indicated, and higher philosophy. Like, really, when you're living within your own personal philosophy, when the ninth house is activated, I like to ask people, like, what do you believe in? Are you living in alignment with that? Are you adding something new to what you believe in, trying something out while this is activated? Because a lot of people don't really think about like the philosophies that they live within. And with that, it aligns with the energy of Sagittarius, believing in something and wanting to share it or live within that and have the actions be seen through. So love a good Sagittarius. I feel like they don't use their power enough. But Capricorn...
All you Sagittarius out there, lean into it.
Get creative. Do it. Do the thing.
Spread the joy, especially at this time in the world.
Exactly. And they can be really good master business leaders as well, I think, and artists. It also comes through like sharing their art or their techniques is really important. And being flexible is something that I think maybe that keeps Sagittarius down, is sometimes they don't feel safe to have that flexibility in their energy. Being the last fire sign in the zodiac, it is very like inspiration when it comes, and then when it goes, it's up and down. So that's probably why we don't see Sagittarius toot their own horn enough. Then Capricorn is the next sign, and it's the last earth sign in the zodiac. So mastering this energy of nourishment, but also groundedness and stability. But Capricorn is represented by the goat fish. Some people just think it's a mountain goat, but it's a goat fish.
I heard of this.
Yeah, so I love talking about this because it really represents how to master earth. You must also understand the water element to it, the flexibility that's required, the ease while you have these big ambitions and goals, working with ease and your intuition, your spirituality, your emotional balance, because Capricorn is like the CEO of the zodiac. I always say Capricorns represent achievement, of course, but it's also like climbing that mountain like the mountain goat, but then the fish is still there, where it's like, well, this is how I got there, through that emotional awareness and balance. And so being a good CEO or leader, you would also be supportive of that with your underlings. So that's why I call it CEO. So CEO in the best way possible, not in the bad way. So Capricorns can get the shit that Sagittarius wants done. They'll go after it a little bit faster, a little bit more clear, but really want to nourish other people and help bring other people up and see their success too. So that's where like the nourishing part comes in. I see a lot of mama Capricorns who are mothers and bosses doing all of it at once, so they also tend to overwork themselves. So hey, rest up, Capricorns. And they represent the 10th house, which is where your career and ambitions live and your public life live. So right at the top of the wheel, if it were. So Capricorns do have a strong representation to career, or they might really attach themselves, their identity, to their career. Then we have Aquarius. It rules the 11th house, which is the house of community and friendships. But I also call it the house of higher perspective or new perspectives, because through community and friendships, you're making new connections and taking in new perspectives and making them make sense, or giving them a place to live, like supporting them, seeing them. And Aquarius is the last air sign in the zodiac, so like having that alien energy or this matured logic where, the first air signs, Gemini and Libra, might see other people as other. Aquarius is seeing other people, but as a collective. Does that make sense? I
love this. Yes.
Yeah, so that's why Aquarian energy is so important. And I'm going to say something after I say Pisces that's really important. So I'll remember, I'm saying it out loud so I remember. Then we have Pisces, which is the last water sign in the zodiac and is represented by two fish. I also like to tell people it represents the yin and yang sign. Like if the two fish, they're always shown like this, kind of like the yin and yang sign and how everything works together. Pisces is last water sign, so really mastering this intuition and emotional awareness. And that's why sometimes people call Pisces flaky, because they're going with where their emotions are. So sometimes if a Pisces is overstimulated, they might make a last minute decision that other people are like, why did they do that? They're a little strange. Like, you know, because they're just going with what they're sensing. But Pisces are great creatives as well. A lot of people say, like, Pisces being the last sign in the zodiac encompasses all of the energy of the zodiac. And that could be, yeah, and that could be true. But I think I like to anchor it down to its relationship with the 12th house, which is the last house in the zodiac. And it speaks to trust, awareness, and spirituality, that like collective energy. So of course Pisces would take in all the information from the other zodiac signs because they rule this energy of universal awareness and acceptance. The 12th house is identified with our version of spirituality. Like if I'm looking at someone's chart, I can help them understand how they see spirituality through looking at their 12th house, but it also helps us understand where we need to let go, like what kind of techniques we can use to trust more. If we're a little bit more stubborn, like people with Taurus in their 12th house might be more stubborn in their convictions and need to need more assistance in exploring other ideas or something, or trusting that things will work out and not controlling them. So Pisces is a great example for releasing control, trusting the universe. They trust their instincts. When they're operating in their highest self, they trust their instincts. Now, you guys might have been taking this journey in mind with your sun sign or your moon sign or rising, but we are all 12 signs. We have all 12. We're born with a natal chart where we still have all 12 signs. You just have different planets in different signs, but we are all born on this earth, so we do all have the qualities of all of these signs. They just show up in different ways, and that's why doing natal chart work is so important, because it can really help progress your personal growth and the ways you identify as yourself, the way you learn more about yourself, and might feel more self-affirmation. And you feel seen when you get a natal chart reading, usually because they're explaining things that you weren't able to explain, or it gives you a model or a system that helps things make sense. The systems of the signs, houses, and planets. Yeah.
I think it's so lovely. Like, even as you're telling me about Aquarius and connectivity, and I'm like, and community that the ruled by the house that's has that virtue. I'm like, it's just nice. I'm like, that's why I want to do the stuff that I want to do. Like, it's just a kind of lovely way to find yourself in the world. Is that what you wanted to remember to say at the end of Aquarius?
We are all 12 signs. Yes, and this is like, it's never going to be popular enough. Actually, I shouldn't say that, because my ideal hope is that people start talking this way. But it's hard to get out of the vocabulary of I'm this, I'm that with astrology. But when you really use astrology for personal growth, you're recognizing how this was your starting point. And you're growing and evolving. This is how I'm evolving using astrology. A fun little tidbit I can share is,
please.
My rising sign is Pisces. And so I identified with Pisces really strongly, especially like the first 5 years of me going into my astrology business. I was like, okay, of course, I'm a Pisces. I'm, flexible, goofy. The way I talk might not always make sense, but I'm just myself, free-flowing. And then I looked at my chart in another way, which is a different technique called the progressed chart. And so this is talking about how you are allowed to grow and not to keep myself in a Pisces box, for example, because my progressed chart, my ascendant is now in Taurus for a few years. So this is just another technique that astrology can show us of like, so yeah, my natal rising is still Pisces. That's always a part of me and my starting point and how I identified. But I am in a more alignment with creating stability in my life now, or relating to Taurus themes. The weirdest way it's showing up is that now I love the color green. Taurus is an earth sign, right? So like now I'm very like trying to be grounded in everything I do. And again, this is like another technique I'm throwing out at everyone, but it's a technique where I know that, oh, these next 2 years, what if I treated myself like I was a Taurus, and read the horoscopes, like check in with how I'm feeling in alignment with those influences instead, or identifying with Taurus.
Sweet. It's like you can borrow from other signs.
Yeah,
Like,
because you
like,
have it. You have it in your
yeah,
chart natally, and then this is just another way that you can practice personal growth ultimately, and
right.
mindfulness, and see how those energies align with your goals or don't align. Because sometimes when, say, Taurus didn't align with anything of my goals, I'd be like, oh, I'm being very stubborn right now,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's great to have also these different opportunities to have your own thought experiments to work with, to help
Just
you
play with
evaluate.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be so serious. Like,
Yeah.
but so many things in life, it's like, well, what's the proof? What's this? And it's like, why don't you just play with it? Why don't you just take a breath, look into it, and I don't know, there's something you can get from everything, you know?
Exactly. And that's probably why there's so much skepticism around astrology, because we're so conditioned to focus on what has the right answer or a
Yeah.
definitive
And the
response.
proof, right?
The
Like,
proof, exactly.
yeah, show me
And
this. Yeah.
and with personal growth, you are the proof. With astrology and it being your natal chart, no one's going to have proof for you because this is you.
Yeah.
And astrology and other spiritual practices, I think like there is proof out there, but they're looking for that research or some data. And so I'm hoping to also do that, provide some data and research. But yeah, but really it's by switching people's mind from, I'm going to do this not because I need the proof, but I need the experience of self examining. I need that space or that tool to help me do this, not if you need a right answer or not. Sometimes that can be hard for people.
Where does it all come from? I know it's millennia years old,
Yeah,
but I'm like, how do we trace this back? I find that so interesting
it's
in
so
things. Like,
interesting. It's amazing. So it does come from like Greek mythology, like all of the gods are planets. Did you know that?
no.
Okay, yeah. Greek mythology was first, and then in Roman mythology, all of the gods are the names of the planets. Like Saturn is I always forget. I think Saturn is Poseidon. I forget who's Zeus.
Google.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really beautiful.
Yeah. So the Roman gods' names are actually like Mercury's Hermes, Venus is Aphrodite, Mars is Aries, Jupiter is Zeus, Saturn is Cronus, Neptune's Poseidon, Uranus, Uranus, Pluto is Hades. Yeah, so the planets
Other
are
planets,
where
of course.
astrology comes from, is people observing the planets and seeing them as this representation of gods, and then creating these definitions around them. And of course, also stories as they came up, like
Yeah, back to
mythology
the
as it
beginning,
played
yeah,
out. Yeah,
storytelling.
then they would say a story about Venus and then would attribute that to like, oh, well, of course, Venus does mean relationships now because of this story or myth around Venus. So, and then it just, built up, and then we studied those gods like it throughout history. Greek and Roman mythology was always studied. Like it's something that we didn't really lose. Like in the medieval times, people were looking for these ancient texts to read, and that's really where I believe it came from. But then, of course, there's earlier representations, like in Mesopotamia, of people using astrology, and I don't know, they might have had different names for the planets. But,
Okay.
and it's also different from Western, Eastern astrology as well, because Vedic astrology has also different names for these planets, and sometimes they're different significance, but they do line up pretty well. They
Cool.
have similarities, and that's why I encourage everyone to use all the tools in their toolbox. I'm actually studying Vedic astrology this year, so then I can know those different perspectives and like little
Oh,
slight adjustments and how things match up. But I'm learning, like I'm very early stages, but it all comes from our history, and astrologers really were big throughout history. They were around. They were also like Kepler was an astrologer, but who was also like a court mathematician, or a lot of big names that we read about or might be common knowledge or hear about in popular culture as references to discoveries, and especially in math, they were also likely astrologers too.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like we discredit it, right? So it's like put that in the background.
Yeah.
In Wikipedia, put that below. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And
get
like
it.
we came, like they used math a lot to track the planets. And that's where, yeah, it's really crazy, but astrology really does come from that not even era, because it's multiple eras, but people studying the past.
What are you most excited about for your astrology career?
I have, yeah, two big things where,
Okay.
like I said, I want to be part of giving that data. So I want to, I've done a few, but surveys, and having different surveys and putting them out there for anyone in the world to answer, so that I can collect that data and provide like some validity, or just articles of like this many Capricorns did have this experience, or
Oh, where
even
are you
more
putting out the
detailed.
surveys?
So
Like,
I'm gonna use SurveyMonkey, and then through SurveyMonkey they can like push it out some way. So I'm still doing research behind that, but previously I did one-on-one interviews and collected some data that way. But of course that's more time consuming. So because my background is in history, I have a history degree, so I love collecting information and proving a point or making suggestions there.
oh, that's
So
so cool.
yeah,
I didn't
so
know
I
that.
I call it like launching the survey part of my business. And
Okay.
then the service part of my business, I'm creating a workbook that is an accompaniment to my Your Personal Astrologer program, but people can just buy the workbook. So I'm still formatting it where it walks people through the techniques I do with my clients to set them up to use my specific style of techniques, of astrology techniques, to understand their values, understand their goals, and then help map out certain timing throughout the year that is best to focus on them, or understand how their alignment is really showing up, how to reflect with the moon cycles, how to learn astrology and share it with your friends. One of my favorite things is giving people this cheat sheet, which I can totally give you, Nadine, where you can be like, this, you're a Capricorn and it's Aries season. This is a life area that's
Yes,
activated
please.
for you. So that's like my favorite thing to give people. But it's so much fun because then it inspires other people to share their astrology journey with other people, and making that book is going to be super fun. I'm excited to see the different phases of it, because it's probably just going to be like an interesting little workbook at first, but then it can be something really really nice and well binded. I don't know
Ah,
what type of binding the first version will have, but I got big plans
oh, I
for
love
future
this.
versions. Yeah,
If I could say, start scrappy. Just like,
exactly.
just put the first one out there and then let it evolve.
Yeah,
Okay, I have two more questions. I know I've kept you for a long time, but
that's okay.
honestly, I feel like, well, number one, I'm not that familiar with everything. So even as you're explaining things, my brain, it's like, did you ever watch Homeland?
No.
Oh my God, it's so good. Okay, you got to go watch it. But Carrie Matheson was the character's name. And at one point, she was like, she had a bunch of stuff on a wall and like string attaching these random ideas and connections. And that's how I feel while you're
That is
talking.
how it is. Yeah.
I'm like, what is a transit? What is a house? What is this moon? But what I actually gather from as you're explaining it, like I really loved the little tidbits of the 12 houses and connecting them with the signs. Like I'm like, oh, I get that. That's and I can map people, put people, connect people with it that I know. But what I also like is the birth chart idea, and then thinking about a workbook and in like a almost, I don't know if this is your plan, but in a calendar of sorts. So it's like, hey, this January, this is when the full moon, and this the moon is in this, and this is in
Yeah.
this, and mapping that along with me for my growth for that year, my plans and my goals. Okay, last night there was this beautiful full moon. It's February the 2nd when we're chatting. This is going to come out in a bit, but it's February the 2nd. And last night I went outside to put something in my compost, and I looked up and I was like, well, she's glorious tonight. And then I read that it was the Libra moon. Is that a thing?
It
Am I
was
getting this
a
right?
full moon in Leo last night.
Oh, Leo. Okay, so what does that even mean?
So it means the zodiac sign that it was in Leo. So full moons are always opposite to the sun because they're reflecting the light of the sun, so that's why they're full. So when they're exactly opposite to where the sun is, that makes a full moon. So the sun's in Aquarius and then the moon was in Leo. And
So
so
what is that energy? What is it
yeah,
telling me?
so for you, actually, it would be relevant to relationships. And like, so the full moon is a culmination energy. And this is all full moons are important for releasing old energy, letting stuff go, and expressing gratitude. So then you look at what life area Leo activates according to your sun sign. So, according to your sun sign, so Aquarius is the first house, Leo is right across from it, the seventh house. So, this full moon, which was yesterday, but the energy still is around, is a great time for you to release old relationships or like releasing old expectations around relationships. It might bring a full circle moment of gratitude and fulfillment in some relationships. It can also be a great time for you to just, if you are feeling like a lack of something, to express gratitude for people in your life. And the other way to think of it is also a culmination in your relationship with all things. And so the full moon, where you literally were looking at it and thinking about how beautiful it is, you having a few days to sit in that like moment of, I have a great relationship with the universe right now, or how you're really feeling. And how then after that moment, what can happen 6 months from now will be you having a new moon in your relationship energy. So by releasing or expressing gratitude right now, you could be attracting better energy or more relationship energy. Like, so I know you're married, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like for single people, it would be like, this is the best full moon to release old expectations so you can attract the right partner. For you, it can show up in all of these other layers as well. I mean, with anyone, it can show up in these layers of, attracting the right partnerships. And so it can be anything from, business partners, long-term friends, to your new beloved comfy chair, like with seventh house. It's like that stuff that you have that attachment to.
Oh, I love it. Cute.
So it's a really fun one. But overall, the full moon in Leo is a great time for releasing. And for anyone, even if you're listening to this podcast a week later, a month later, whatever, it's a reminder to love yourself with Leo, because Leo is this energy of self-love and excitement. So this is a point in the year where I ask people to get excited and cheer themselves on, recognizing your goals so far. If you didn't really stick to any New Year's goals, that's totally okay. Just cheer yourself on and readjust from here. That's the basic energy of the full moon in Leo. It can be more lighthearted generally.
Okay. And my last thing before I let you go back out into your lovely afternoon, what in the world is up with Mercury in retrograde, and why does everyone love to say it in the last 5 years? Mm-hmm. Like, what the?
All of the planets retrograde, people. It's not just Mercury. Okay.
Why do they hang on to Mercury? What is it?
I know. It's because Mercury retrogrades the most frequently. And Mercury is also the planet of communication. So a lot of people like to blame Mercury for miscommunications or technical difficulties, but really, yeah.
That's funny. As I asked you about this and you said technical difficulties, my computer was like, FYI, low battery. So let me plug it in.
So funny.
I do not want to say, this podcast didn't say it because Mercury was in retrograde.
I mean, and I think Mercury retrograde is coming up. It does retrograde at the end of February. February 26th into mid-March. March 20th, it ends its retrograde. So Mercury is the planet of communication, and therefore, when Mercury's in retrograde, there's miscommunications, IRL, voice to voice, text message, technology. There can be delays in receiving like mail, bills, stuff like that. So a lot of people have been talking about Mercury retrograde because it's so obvious, and it always kind of aligns. It's just a little bit more obvious and interacts with people's daily life, and feelings, because when we're not communicating properly, we're like a little we feel weird. But what a retrograde actually is, the planet is not actually moving backwards, but from our perspective on Earth, the orbits are just at this point where they're at a different speed. So because all orbits aren't circular, they're ecliptic, they're like an oval. So it just means at the point of Earth's orbit and the point of Mercury's orbit, we're just moving at this faster point. So it looks like Mercury is moving backwards from our position.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So in astrology, it's like, well, if it's moving backwards, just to use the common terms, if it's moving backwards, that means we have to reevaluate what themes were going on while it was at those degrees or in that sign. Because sometimes it retrogrades and it stays in a sign. Sometimes it moves back into a different zodiac. So looking at Mercury retrograde is really helpful for some people to evaluate their feelings and maybe even regrets on some actions. So during Mercury retrograde, a lot of people do just feel uncomfortable because they're provided with opportunities to be honest. They're provided with opportunities to maybe communicate their needs or express forgiveness, and that can be hard. But all of the planets retrograde, and that adds a different style to what is being reworked for people. But Mercury does retrograde about 3 times a year, so it's also the most common. A fun thing is Mars does not retrograde at all during 2026. Mars, the planet of action. So this means 2026 is a great year to see your progress through, to really to have more momentum built up, because it's not going to retrograde and kind of mess with your physical energy. So that's another example of how tracking the retrogrades can be positive, because Mars, action wise, you're going to have more momentum, more energy, physical energy. But Mercury does retrograde 2 other times this year. So.
Do you know what? I just had this thought. I'm like, Sarah needs to be the astrology guide for the other side community.
Yes.
And then we do a touch point like every 3 months. You're like, hey, everyone, this is what's happening right now. And this is why you're feeling this way. Can we do this
I would
again?
love
like
to. 100%.
Yeah, it's hard to grasp all of it because my mind is very inquisitive. So I'm like, I want to know this, but I'm realizing like I cannot understand all of it. It's a lot of information. I need to start in my little corner of the world, in my community, in my sun sign, in my moon sign, and I think for everybody else to understand just like those little things, like the planet is here, the full moon is here, this is what this means, this is what this could possibly mean, here's what you could work on, here's what you can think about. Yeah, I love this idea.
Yeah. You're also
Sarah.
so right. Like learning astrology starting with yourself is the right way to do it, because that's how you can master the pattern recognition too, because that's really all it is, pattern recognition.
That's why I work with you, right?
Yeah.
Like that's why it's so smart for people to book a reading with Sarah.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on and sharing so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks.
You were put next to me at a really lovely dinner for a very good reason.
Yes, I agree. Thank you so much. I'm so happy we'll talk again soon.
Thanks for sharing all of your information, all of your knowledge, and like well-studied knowledge. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.